Alright, boys, it's time for an NBA fan happiness tier list as you look at this one screen for the entire video, which you're used to if you watch my videos. Thank you for that. I guess we could start with my Celtics. The thing with this is I'm trying to place an average on an entire fan base. So if you think that I am wrong about how you feel, my bad. I guess we can start with my Celtics. Here's the thing. Boston sports fans are maniacs. I can say that as a Celtics fan. Part of it is because Boston sports radio is just like overly negative kind of all the time, and it bleeds into the fan base, right? And so as a result, I'm not kidding you, I'd probably put the Celtics in C tier because this region, the Northeast, just has such a championship or bust mentality. And of course the Celtics, I mean, they had an awesome win against the Kings in their most recent one with a whole bunch of driving kicks and a million threes. It was like, woohoo, this looks like how it looked like 3 months ago. Like, they're looking good, and I personally would be higher, but I'm trying to imagine how most fans feel for the teams here, and so it's going to be a C. Let's go to Grizzlies fans. I think going into the season, it honestly could have been like S tier or A tier, because it's like, well, they're the young team that got to the top of the NBA a little faster than I think most people envisioned they would, but then they had the recent Ja Morant stuff, which, you know, we hope the best for Ja. He's suspended currently. I feel like it's still a B, because when you're so young, there's a more of like a, we have a lot of opportunities, and so it doesn't feel as desperate as, you know, an older team would, you know. Spurs fans. So I do want to take into account like history with some of this stuff, and be like, if you're a Spurs fan and you're around my age, you've seen so many titles that part of me feels like you're just perpetually like an A, where you're just chilling. I do want to take the current team into account a bit, and like, okay, so Devin Vassell's shooting at the beginning of the season was really, really awesome before he went down. Jeremy Sohan's been getting buckets more recently. Keldon Johnson improved this season. Like, for this team specifically, you're probably at a C. And then if you draft Wembanyama, it immediately goes up to S. But because of all the history and the championships and Duncan and all that, which I think should matter in some regard, you're probably at a B. Like, you're usually pretty content. Is it crazy to put Pacer fans in A in terms of happiness? Because, like, the Halliburton trade, I mean, it worked out for them and the Kings. You know what? Let's just put the Pacers and the Kings right next to each other, okay? The Sabonis Halliburton trade, it's worked out for both sides. The Kings are like the 2/3 seed. The Pacers are more exciting than when they were just like the perpetual 5th seed, which are at their best. But to be fair, they had a lot of injuries throughout that run. You know, if Oladipo doesn't go down, different things happen with the Pacers over the last like 6 years. Now we go to Clippers fans. Can I put them at a C? Is that fair or is that too harsh? Because it's like, you know, this season, I think they're like 28-16 when Kawhi plays or something like that. PG just had an injury, and it ended up not being as bad as it looked like initially. It's just like there's so much nervous energy, right? Because they gave up all the stuff they gave up to put this thing together, and you've had a couple of disappointments, one of which was because of injury, one of which was against the Nuggets and all that. It's just, I feel like it's possible to where when there's so much desperation behind, like, we really, really want to win, it can make it to where the stakes are so high that it's impossible to actually be happy. And you're more so just like, I really hope this goes well. And if it does go well, we're going to lose our minds. But I don't know. I could be wrong on that one, but that's just what I guess Clipper fans would be like, even if you also still really like the team. And I mean, look, you got Kawhi, so you got a shot in the playoffs, no doubt. We've seen that dude just go supernova and then some. I feel like it's D on the Hornets fans, man. I mean, I'm making a guess, of course, but LaMelo's injuries definitely put a damper on this season. The Miles Bridges situation also put a damper on this season. Injuries across the board. I mean, you have Mark Williams, whose rim protection has looked better, and you know, I could see this getting back to like a C or possibly a B in time if some things really break their way between the draft. I mean, if they get Wembanyama, then, you know, we're up here. But for right now, I just think it's in D. This is one of those seasons that you kind of just want to, you just want it to be over. Even if Kelly Oubre is getting some buckets, so there's that. For Blazers fans, I think I'm going to go with like a C or a D. I mean, look, you love Dame. You hope Shaedon Sharpe can, you know, be like an all-star. And he shows some signs with the verticality, and I don't think they're big fans of Chauncey. I feel like it's a C, and it's mostly just because of Dame, and I'm pretty sure they're big fans of Simon. So it's like those two just kind of carrying the sort of tone of the fan base. Are Utah fans as happy as Kings fans and Pacer fans? I feel like they could be. I mean, listen, you got all the future picks. Markkanen has emerged as a star. Walker Kessler is probably going to win a Defensive Player of the Year in his career, quite possibly more than one. And I think with the sort of blahness that developed in the last year of the Mitchell Gobert saga, I think it's a nice change of pace. So I guess you can go A tier. Suns fans. The Suns are interesting. I'm going to put them in B as I figure this out. So Of course, you had just the Kevin Durant trade, which I imagine would put you at S tier of being excited. But similar to the Clippers, it's a very desperate season. You know, they gave up the picks, CP's age, KD's hurt right now, and we're hoping that he can come back at least a few games in the regular season. It doesn't feel right to put him in S tier, even if they traded for KD. It feels like A to possibly B is the move. Like, I imagine most Suns fans are pretty happy. But I also just think when you have a season where it's pretty much like win or we're going to really feel bad, it just gets a little scarier. And I know every franchise will feel bad, but like, for example, like we can just go to the Bucks, okay? I'm gonna put the Bucks fans in S tier of happiness, because like if the Bucks lose this year, yeah, it'll suck. But it's like, well, we already got one title, and Giannis is in the middle of his prime. The team's pretty much coming back. Like, it's not the end of the world, right? Whereas if the Suns don't win this year, it's like, well, crap. Now CP's a year older. Like, can we deal with that? And it's another year of hoping KD can be healthy. Like, it's just a little different, you know. Laker fans, we're gonna save the Lakers till the end. I know how to do this. Knicks fans, I think Knicks are an A. Although I should say, this is New York sports fans we're talking about, and similar to Boston sports fans, and when we get to Philadelphia sports fans, maybe they just go down one just because of that, but they really, really love this team, so I kind of want to put them back in A tier. But for whatever reason, it's just something about like Northeast sports fans where it's just like, they're just a little less happy than they probably should be, just kind of all the time around sports. We won't save the Lakers for last. The Lakers will be here. As far as like Laker fans who are around my age, you've seen a lot of championships. And so you'd think that would be like S or A tier at the least. But I tell you, man, between just the tone of the team and the fan base, at least from like Lakers Twitter during last season and all the Westbrook stuff, on top of just, it feels like Lakers Twitter is like falling apart after every single loss. And then it's like the greatest day ever after every single win. It's just a lot of up and down to where I kind of want to put them in B. It feels ridiculous to say that because I just think with the amount of titles the average Laker fan has seen, you'd think that they're just perpetually up here. But I tell you, man, expectations do something to you. There's also the pressure of like LeBron's age and stuff too, you know. So we'll put the Lakers in B. Wizards fans, I'm going to guess the Wizards fans are in D tier. I mean, I remember last year it was a lot of like conversations about should we trade Bradley Beal, and I think most of the time they were on like the side of, yeah, we're okay with moving on from this team. Porzingis had 30 in their last game, so that's fun. When you just have a team and a front office that is trying so hard to get to 45 wins and they just can't do it, it's just kind of not a fun situation to be in. Pelicans, about the first 20 games or so, would have probably been up, you know, around B or A in terms of happiness and all that. Then the Zion injury happened, and then it feels like D, honestly. I just feel like Zion's health just matters so much to this thing at this point. And it's like, yeah, you can love Brandon Ingram and Trey Murphy and Dyson Daniels' potential and all that, but yeah. I feel like Rockets fans are also at a D in happiness. They do not like Steven Silas, man. They like their players. Like, they like KJ and Tari Eason and Jabari and Şengün, Jalen Green. I think there's been some arguments about KPJ within the fan base, but I think overall they like the players. It's just they're definitely not fans of Steven Silas. We'll just put it like that. Bulls fans. So real quick, I do owe a little bit of an apology to the Bulls because in my last video I basically was like, hey, Bulls fans, you guys want this thing to keep going? I should have acknowledged they have been winning a bit recently with Pat Bev in there, and their defense has been like great recently. So we'll give them that. And I mean, the hope really is that whether it's Pat Bev or somebody else, like with a decent situation at point guard, perhaps this team could get to like 47 wins next season with Levine and DeRozan and possibly Vooch. That's the optimistic angle. The pessimistic angle is that we're trying to be a good team, but it's not really hitting with these veterans, and the Lonzo health sucks. But also you've got the fact that MJ gave you 6 titles, so are you just like always up here? I don't know. C, possibly B, kind of an in-between, but I'll put them in C. Now we go to the Hawks. I'm going to guess Hawks fans are just a solid C. Gave up all the picks in the DeJounte move, and I think DeJounte's been fine, but like early in the season, the shooting wasn't there. Fired Nate McMillan, you get Quinn Snyder. The offense has had some better stretches, and the defense kind of slipped. I don't know, man. I mean, you can love Trae Young, but yeah. I'm going to guess Pistons fans, as far as like how the whole thing is going, are probably at like B, but because of Cade's injury this year, you're probably at like a C. Like, you can get excited about Ivy, and James Wiseman has been scoring a bit lately, and Jalen Duren is finishing and rebounding and all that. So I guess we'll just land there. T-Wolves fans, I think that's just going to be a C. Defensively, I feel like they're figuring out a lot of things and how to play off of Rudy, but the Cat injury, of course, was a bummer, and he's actually going to be coming back, I think, in their next game. And of course, Edwards has been great, but, you're a 500 team, and you gave up basically your entire draft for half a decade, so I just feel like at the most you can just be is like C right now. You can appreciate Jaden McDaniels' on-ball defense, but yeah. Raptor fans, are Raptor fans in like B or C? I think because you got the recent title, that certainly helps you out a little bit. I do think a lot of conversations amongst Raptor fans are more so like the future of the team. And even if you look better with Pirtle, it's a lot of like what happens with Siakam and Anunoby and Fred and Gary Trent, and all that's fine, no doubt. But it seems like that's kind of all it is. When you're talking about a bunch of good players, but you're constantly just like, well, what is the right fit among all these guys? Even if, of course, like you love Scotty Barnes, and obviously Scotty Barnes is going to be here for a long time. I think as a result, it's just kind of tough to go higher than a B. Now we get to the Nets. So if you want to focus on just whatever the hell the last few years were with KD and Kyrie and all of it, then you're looking at like a D or a C because, of course, it didn't work out. And if you want to solely focus on this team and Mikhail's growth on offense and Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton's improvement and all that, and then I think you're going with B. I don't know. Like, are Nets fans, are you guys happy? Or are you just like recovering? I feel like they're at a C because it's too much trauma right now for them to be at a B. I think they're going to get there, but right now they're at a C. Sixers fans. All right. Similar thing I did with the Celtics. I mean, they're Philadelphia sports fans. They are extremely passionate, and I also think they have this level of cynicism, which probably is amplified by just everything the Sixers have been between Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz, and I also don't think they're huge fans of Doc Rivers, but at the same time, you have Embiid, you're a title contender, so it's like, it feels weird to have them lower than a B, but you know what, we're going to get weird, so they're at a C. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Dallas fans, I think the 2011 title holds a lot of weight. At the same time, it was 12 years ago at this point. And after the Kyrie trade, we know what it looks like. Defensively, it's a struggle. I mean, Luka is amazing, and I do think as sports fans, we will take for granted when you have an amazing player on your team, but like, I don't know, it's just kind of how it happens with us. And then after that, it becomes, well, can you surround him with the right team? And, you know, Kyrie's free agency's coming up, and I do think the perception of Jason Kidd's probably a little more negative this year than it was last year. Like, I feel like Mavericks fans are at a C. Magic fans, I kind of want to put the Magic in B, which is a hell of a thing for Orlando, because for a long time, it would have been down here, man. With Paolo, who, I mean, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I imagine he's still among the top of the league in foul draws per game, and Franz, who's just such a balanced offensive player, and Wendell and Markelle are just good fundamentally, and the Fultz story in general is great. As far as why they're in B and not like an A, I don't know. You could probably put him in A and be totally fine. I'm going to put him in B just because, like, I don't know. I see how happy Kings fans are or Jazz fans. Like, I don't think Magic fans are there just yet, but they're probably going to get there pretty soon. Hello, this is me talking over a black screen. I moved the Magic to A tier at the end of the video, but they're going to be in B for like the next couple minutes before I do that. Denver fans. This is an interesting one. I'm going to put them in B as I figure this out, because I think at the lowest they'd be B. They're probably an A. Look, you got an MVP, you're the 1 seed in the West, you got a chance at a title. Like, all that would suggest that the lowest this can be is A. I don't think Denver fans, maybe they do, I don't know, but I don't think they have the same sort of cynicism that other sports franchises have. So I think we're going to go with A. We're going to go with A on the Cavs as well. You know, of course, you had the LeBron title in 2016, which can hold you over for a bit. The Mitchell trade was a home run. You're banking on the growth of Garland and Mobley. And I mean, how many times am I going to talk about Mobley's offense and why I'm optimistic there? Okay, Heat fans. So this one is going to be kind of similar to the Spurs, where it's like, you know, this season, I mean, the Heat are better than the Spurs here, but it's like, you know, a little bit of a disappointing season for Miami between, you know, Lowry and his age and their role players and the weirdness of their three-point shooting, even if it's been a little better over the last, like, 7 games or whatever. But it's like, look, if you're a Heat fan, and assuming you're around my age, you've seen 3 championships. You've seen a few finals appearances on top of those championships. And so I feel like as a result, you are more willing as a fan base to sort of sit through the blah times and not really be that beat up about it. Now we go to the Warriors. So given the amount of titles they've won recently, you'd think it would be instant S tier, but expectations are a hell of a thing, man. And when they don't get hit like it's been this season so far with the weirdness of the home road thing, and I mean, some would say it's really just as simple as they give up more threes on the road, they give up less threes at home, and that's pretty much it. You've had, of course, Jordan Poole's up and down season. Like, it is a whole thing. I do think Warriors fans also argue amongst themselves more than the average NBA fan base. It just seems like it's a lot of stuff about like Steve Kerr, and earlier it was Wiseman, and now it's like, should we have traded Wiseman? And Jordan Poole's always a hot topic for them. I still think it's an A at the least. If I can attempt to relate to this. So as a casual Patriots fan who was watching them throughout, you know, all the Tom Brady million championships or however many it was, when you get to the point where you've just like won so many it does become a bit of like winning out of relief as opposed to winning out of like, oh my God, we won the championship. You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird thing. Probably going to put OKC in A tier as an ad for something popped up, because OKC is kind of similar to like the Pacers and the Kings or the Jazz, where it's like fun, young team. And I mean, SGA is one of the best players in the league. Jalen Williams has looked like a star for like 3 weeks. Giddey is, of course, still awesome. And you got all the picks moving forward, and the team is potentially going to make the playoffs. But if they don't make the playoffs, you're also not really going to be that disappointed if you're a Thunder fan. Like it's the great place to be in, where it's a fun team. The expectations are not too high. So yeah, here we go. Happiest fan base in the league, Bucks fans. Actually, you know what, man? We're going to move the Magic to A tier.